Tonight, David Silverman, president of American Atheists, talks about his new book, Fighting God, an Atheist Manifesto for a Religious World.
Terrorism is a bad thing to allow because it's never the end. When you allow people to threaten you into giving up your rights, it's not over. They're going to come back and demand you do more, or else the same threats. So now they're saying, do not insult Islam, or we'll do terrorism. Screw that. We're allowed to say what we want, we're allowed to do what we want, but you must remember, it's our responsibility to do this. It's our responsibility to fight back. Because if we don't fight back, not only do we lose a right, we're going to lose more rights when those same terrorists come back and threaten the same thing for something more. We lose rights in baby steps, and it is our job as American citizens to protect our rights. When they say, my laws, my religious laws forbid you to do that, do that. I'm sorry, that was all fun. I didn't do that. Hold on a second, folks. All right. And while you're doing that, when you're being a firebrand atheist, when you're talking to people, there are some things that you have to know and remember. And I'm going to give you some truths, good old-fashioned truths. And you know, a lot of times, atheists are very, very hesitant to use absolutes. We need to use some absolutes. And we can use them nice and confidently. In fact, we can use them assuredly. And this slide is about absolutes that you can and should use on a daily basis or whenever the subject comes up. The number of times an atheistic argument has been beaten by a theistic argument is 0. God did it has never been proven right across all religions in world history. Prove me wrong once, I'll quit my job. I'm not worried, because it's never happened in world history. Point 2. The number of psychics, and demons, and ghosts, and ghouls, or spirits that have been proven real is 0 across the entire world in world history. Prove me wrong once, I'll quit my job. Because I'll be wrong. Right? Because I'll be wrong. There's a television show on called Ghost Hunters. Y'all familiar with Ghost Hunters? It's been on for 9 seasons, I think. And they always go to the same thing. Don't interrupt. They always go to the same thing. They go to a house and they say, this house is so haunted. This is the camera angle. This house is so haunted. I am so scared right. Did you hear right? Did you hear that? I am so frightened. I'm sure there's a ghost here somewhere. We have ectoplasmic machines that detect all sorts of radiation that are really completely undetectable by all scientific means. But there's ghosts in here for sure. 9 seasons, ladies and gentlemen. They have never found a single ghost. 9 seasons. If they, I mean, this is being recorded right there. If anybody from any Ghost Hunter series in the world can prove a ghost once, I'll quit my job. I'm not worried, of course, because they are professional liars who con people and hurt this country by lowering our knowledge level en masse. It's un-American and horrible. Number 3, the number of miracles that have actually been proven to have happened is 0. I gotta love my Catholic Church because they only canonize saints with 2 proven miracles. I challenge the Catholic Church to find 1 miracle, not just in the Catholic religion, but across all religions. In world history, find me 1. I'll quit my job. It's not worrying me because religion lies. Because religion is all lies. We have to use these absolutes. We have to own these absolutes because these absolutes are what persuade people. These absolutes are what show people how wrong they are. If anybody can prove me wrong on any of these things, I'll quit my job. Guess who's not losing sleep over that promise? The amount of evidence that separates the myths of yesteryear from today's respected religions, again, is zero. Because they all have the exact same amount of proof, zero. There is absolutely no difference in the proof supporting Christianity, Judaism, Zoroastrianism, or the Greek gods or the Roman gods. There is no proof that supports one over the other. And this is why, I go on debates all the time, I debate all the time, and it's always religion versus atheism. Have you ever noticed there are no debates about Christianity versus Judaism? There's no debates about Islam versus this or that or that. They don't do that. Because there is no argument. And they all know it. They all know it. Religion is a lie, and they all know that religions cannot be proven one over the other. That's why you'll never see that. And that's why the amount of proof that separates one over the other is zero. Prove me wrong once, I'll quit my job. In other words, the sum total of scientifically valid proof for anything supernatural ever in world history is zero. Every single miracle, every single ghost, every single haunting, every single spirit, every single god is alive. Prove me wrong once, I'll quit my job. Don't worry about it. It ain't happening. Use these numbers. It's not kind of, sort of, maybe. It's a 100% deal. Gods are lies. Religions are lies. 100% of the time. Own it. And here's another truth. Hold on a second. Here's another truth of why what you call yourself matters a lot. Because euphemisms, ladies and gentlemen. We talked about telling the truth. Euphemisms are not telling the truth. Euphemisms are the names that we use instead of calling ourselves what we are, atheists. And I'm going to talk a little bit about why that's wrong. Euphemisms hurt the cause. Yes, they do. Atheist, the word atheist, is the broadest and most correct term. It means absence of a belief in a deity. There's nothing shameful or negative in the term, but religion wants you to think there is. No, atheism is not absolute denial of God. Religion wants you to think that it is because it's logically untenable. But that's not what the word means. What the word means is you're absent the belief in a God. Now, if you're absent the belief in a God because you don't care, you're an atheist. If you're absent of a belief in a God because you've studied it hard and come to a conclusion, you're an atheist. If you're absent of belief in a God because you don't know everything in the universe, and nobody can know everything in the universe, so you don't have an active belief in a God, you're an atheist, ladies and gentlemen. It's a broad term. It is the broadest term. It is also the most correct term. Atheist answers the question about religion. This is very important. I treat people nicely does not answer what's your religion. I have a friend, I had a discussion once with a famous humanist that I'm not going to name. He said to me, I call myself a humanist and not an atheist because I don't like to tell people what I'm not. I like to tell people what I am. Well, that's great, except you're not answering the question. Now, my friend Ronnie in the back there, I'm going to use you as an example. Ronnie, for the next 3 or 4 minutes, you're a vegetarian. So Ronnie's a vegetarian, ladies and gentlemen. And if you went up to Ronnie and you said, what kind of meat do you eat? What would you expect him to say? Well, what if he answered with, I like salad? But Ronnie, that wasn't the question. I asked you what kind of meat you eat. Well, I like salad. I don't like to tell people what I don't eat. I like to tell people what I do eat. You see, ladies and gentlemen, I'm a humanist too. I'm a very passionate humanist. I'm a member of humanist organizations. But what is your religion is not answered by I'm a humanist. What is your religion is not about what do you think about treating other people. It's what do you think about God. And you know it's true. When somebody asks you what you are religiously, the answer is not I treat people nicely. The answer is I don't believe in God. I'm an atheist. And the kind of meat you eat, Ronnie, is none, because you're a vegetarian. Anything else would be hiding, right? So let's talk a little bit about hiding. Because, well, think about how many people know what the definitions of the words are. And this is a very important point. One of the most important points that I think you're going to hear tonight. Again, what I give you is independent quantitative data from independent sources. Independent quantitative data. I like independent quantitative data. Here's some data for you. Nationwide, 87% of Americans know what an atheist is, essentially. 87% know what an atheist is. 50%, 50, essentially know what an agnostic is. Folks, you should never use the word agnostic as an identifier because you've got at least a 50-50 shot of being considered a theist. Oh, the people listening to you, they have no idea what that means. They'll think you have a 50-50 chance. You give God a 50-50 chance. They assign a value to it. They assign a meaning to it because, again, more than half of, or about half of the population doesn't know what it means. 70% of the population doesn't know what secular means. They think it's a supporter of the separation of church and state. How many of you have ever heard of Openly Secular? You know that organization? They're the ones that supplied this data. Now, Openly Secular had a special day. And in that special day, they said, okay, let's get everybody to say, I'm openly secular. Great. And they defined secular on their website very clearly to mean atheism. They didn't use the right words. They used all the wrong words. But you could see when Openly Secular was talking about it, they were talking about atheists, but they were using the word secular because it's more acceptable. And the tweets were full of such beautiful wisdom as, I'm a Christian and I'm secular. Because 70% of the population doesn't know what it means. That's why it's more acceptable. Because people don't know what it means. And in Fighting God, I actually have a chart where I graph the number of people who know what it means across the acceptability of the terms. And guess what? The more people who know that a term means atheistic, the less acceptable it is. It's very, very linear. You can see it in the book. 11% of the people know what a humanist is. And 12 know what a freethinker is. I'm just going to round out some numbers here. I'm going to use 90 and 10. 90% of this population knows approximately what an atheist is, and 90% doesn't know what a humanist is. Now, ladies and gentlemen, if somebody asks you a question about your religion, and you answer with a term like freethinker or humanist, that has a nearly 90% chance of being misunderstood, are you telling the truth? Are you conveying correct information? No, you're not. You're not only not answering the question, but you're giving an answer that has a 90% chance of not being understood. And if it's not understood, what's assumed? The norm, which is theism. You call yourself a humanist, you've got nearly a 90% chance of being assumed theistic. That's not telling the truth. Now let me ask you a question, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, there it is. If you were religion, what term would you want the atheists to use to self-identify? The one that was understood by 90% of the population, or the ones that are misunderstood by 90% of the population? Folks, when we hide behind euphemisms, we do nobody any favors except religion. We don't help ourselves. We don't help our country. We don't help defeat the bigotry. We help nothing except religion when we hide. Now, it's important that you understand that what you call yourself affects other people. So many people get so pissed off when I say this, when I say you should call yourself an atheist. They say, don't tell me what to call myself, it's not your business. Ladies and gentlemen, let me make something really clear. It is my business. It is my business what you call yourself, because what you call yourself affects me. It affects everybody else in this room. It affects everybody else in this country. During the George W. Bush presidency, he decided to cut stem cell research. Cutting stem cell research affected all of our livelihoods and all of our our expected enjoyment of life for us and our family, because some guy decided that it was against God's will, and the president said yes. And when he did that, we were officially about 3% of the population. 3% of the population. Ladies and gentlemen, in fighting God, I crunch a lot of numbers. And some of the numbers I've come up with include a defensible number. It's aggressive, but it's defensible, that we're approximately 26% atheist today. 26% atheist. But our polls show 3% atheist, which translates out into approximately 90% of the atheists in this country don't call themselves atheists. What would George Bush's presidency would have looked like if those atheists had called themselves atheists? If we were a quarter of the population, if the people calling themselves Christians called themselves atheists, who are atheists? Truthfully, the people call themselves Jews, and don't forget the secular humanists and agnostics and this and that and the other thing. If everybody called themselves atheists, who are atheists, we would have a different country. We would have longer lifespans. What you call yourself affects me. What you call yourself affects the entire country. Holding and back and staying silent hurts us because it makes us look insignificant. It makes us look like we don't matter. It gives the religious right all the fuel they need to dismiss us entirely. What you call yourself matters to me. And hopefully it'll matter to you. So, having said that, what does Firebrand atheism look like? We know what it is. We know it's telling the truth. We know it's telling the truth all the time. Let's look at some examples of Firebrand atheism and see how it comes out. We talked about the Billboards before. By the way, Don, where are you, Don? Brother, I am not going soft. Don and I have been friends for 12 years, 13 years, a long time. No, ma'am, it's a science. I'll show you. So we started out with this, which is my favorite, of course. You know it's a myth. Now, this billboard was on the air in the national news in 9 different countries because nobody had said religion was a myth before. It broke a barrier. Breaking a barrier shifts what is called the Overton window. Now, the Overton window is a business term. It's an old term. It basically represents the amount, what is acceptable to talk about in society. And you move the Overton window by applying pressure from the outside. So, a good example, if you look at the first time that Mitt Romney ran for president, he was an outlier because he was a Mormon. And that was outside of that thing. Nobody took him seriously. The next time, he was the front runner because everybody was used to it. That's shifting the Overton window. When we put this up, we went on the air in 9 different countries because it was way outside that window. And everybody flipped out. There were cartoons about it. There was a counter billboard from the Catholic League. I love that. The guy at CNN said, this guy looks like me. There were memes that brought about it. Seth Meyers featured it on Saturday Night Live. It was big news because it was so edgy. We went forward and we did a little bit more edgy, like maybe Arabic. And we called Allah a myth. And we put it up in a Muslim neighborhood. That got a lot of press. That turned a lot of people. We called religion a scam. And we called religion a scam while we put the dreaded Muslim symbol up there. Ooh. And that's when I went on O'Reilly after that billboard and I got my mean face because he said some stupid things. You know there is no God, we know you're right. We put these billboards, we put them all over the city of Des Moines. And the news story there was the number of billboards. In Des Moines we had billboards facing each other. You couldn't escape it. We were there. What myths do you see? First time Jesus was compared to other gods on a billboard. Every single one has an edge. And this one, the one that we put up today, or this week, yeah, it's not as edgy as these, but the edge is in the location. The edge is in the location. We put Skip Church in the most churchy sections of the country. We put it in Colorado Springs and Greensboro, North Carolina, the most churchy parts of the country, telling people to skip church. And guess what? We've had so much press. So many times. I think it's maybe 4 television spots so far. Big television spots so far. Including Fox News, including Inside Edition. Because we moved outside the local Overton window and told people to skip church in the most churchy areas of the country. Now, that's how we do it with billboards. I want to talk to you a little bit about Firebrand atheism in person. The first thing that you need to know is that people need to know that open and harsh criticism of religion is okay and that it is indeed good and necessary. It is indeed good and necessary. Ladies and gentlemen, the important part of this point is this. Religion doesn't hit religion. Only atheism hits religion. If we don't hit religion, nobody will. We're the only ones. And there's only the Firebrands at that. We have a responsibility to hit religion because religion needs to be hit. Religion deserves to be hit. It deserves to be criticized harshly. In fact, it deserves to be killed dead, but that's beside the point. It's our job, it's our responsibility as Firebrand atheists to criticize religion because somebody has to criticize religion. Someone has to. Point 2. Even if they find it distasteful, they need and deserve to hear it. They need and deserve to hear it. They deserve it. They deserve it. A lot of times people don't understand religious people. They come up to me and they say, you know, I got this friend and he's a doctor and he's got a PhD and he's so smart, but he believes in a man in the sky. Why is he so stupid? He's not stupid. Religious people are not stupid. My mother was a religious person. She wasn't stupid. They're injured. They're brainwashed. They are victims of a lie. They are hurt. They have been indoctrinated, probably since birth, into believing something which cannot exist is real, and that they must not question it, and that faith in that, blind faith in that, is a virtue. They are victims. I compare them in fighting God to the Borg of Star Trek. Because these folks, I mean, y'all, yeah, I know y'all know the Borg of Star Trek. So the Borg are formerly humans or other beings who have been indoctrinated, assimilated into this collective, and now they want to kill you. And it's possible, according to Star Trek canon, to undo that, right? It's possible to unconnect them from the collective. And if you can do that, you want to do that. But if you can't do that, you have to fight them as enemies. You have to fight them even as you pity them. That's where I place religious people. You don't fight the humans, of course. You don't fight, we're not talking about fighting humans. What I'm saying is that as we fight against religious people, we must understand that they are not stupid, they are not evil, they are victims of a lie. And if we had been brought up in that situation, if we had been brainwashed ourselves, we would be in their shoes. It's important to know that, and it's important to internalize that. My mother was a believer. My mother was a believer. And one day, a couple of years ago, before she died, I went to her house and I found on her table a receipt from a psychic. Now, my mother was not a rich woman. She was actually quite poor in her later years. And I got mad. I got mad. I got right up to her. I said, what are you doing? You're paying money to a con artist. You're paying money to a scam. They're only telling you what you already know. And I explained to her how psychics tell you only what you already know. And that she should stop going to this con artist, this scammer. If you want somebody to lie to you, Ma, I'll do it to you for free. We had an argument. She went back and noticed that the psychic isn't telling her anything she already didn't know. She asked some things that she didn't know and didn't get any answers. And after that, she didn't go to that psychic anymore. Did I do the right thing? Of course I did the right thing. My mother was being conned. My mother was poor, and she was being conned by a scammer, by a con artist. It's my job as a good son to get in there and stop that from happening. Why do we treat religion differently? Religion has the exact same amount of proof. Religion has no proof at all. Religion takes your money. Religion makes you empty promises, tells you things you already know. Religion is a scam. We know this. Why is it okay that I went to my mother and got in her face for going to a psychic or a tarot card reader or an astrologer, but a man in a robe who says he talks to an invisible man in the sky? No, that's holy. No, that's privilege. That's religious privilege. We, in this country, are all subject to it. We've all been fed it, that religion is on a pedestal. You wouldn't want to mess with somebody's closely held religious beliefs. But if you think about it, that doesn't help the believer. It doesn't help you. It doesn't help the country. It only helps religion. It's a pretty good facet of the scam. And so many of us atheists are still in that part of the scam, placing religion above other scams for no reason at all. Believers need and deserve our help. Bigotry comes from ignorance. Forcing the conversation allows enlightenment and de-demonizes atheism and atheists. Now, I have a friend, and he calls himself, he's an atheist, but he doesn't call himself one. He calls himself a naturalistic non-theist. What a bunch of crap that is. So, you go up to an atheophobe, a person who doesn't like atheists, and you say, I'm a rationalistic non-theist. And he says, great, at least you're not an atheist, right? Now, if you call up to him and you say, I'm an atheist, what's the bad part? What's the negative here? The negative, the most feasible real negative, is you're going to get a face full of anger. I hate atheists, and he walks away. That's the worst that can happen. It's not comfortable, it's not happy, but at the same time it's not harmful. Now, let's say I do that. And let's say the next atheist walks up to that same atheophobe. Let's say my friend has gone up to him and called himself a rationalistic non-theist, but this atheist calls himself an atheist. He's going to get that face full of heat. He's going to get that hardness. If you walk up to that person and you say, I'm an atheist, you get the face full of heat, the guy walks away, but the next atheist that guy meets, who says he's an atheist, is going to get less. Because the shock value has been reduced. Because that guy's personal Overton window has been shifted by you calling yourself an atheist. You smiling, you calling yourself an atheist and de-demonizing the word. When you call yourself an atheist, you make it easier for the next person. You never know who that next person is. You never know who that next person is. You do something that takes a little heat in your face and helps the next person. You de-demonize atheism, and you help a stranger, and you take a little heat for it. That is humanism. That is the right thing to do. That is the nice thing to do. And that is why it is more, not only more correct, but it is more humanistic to call yourself an atheist than it is to call yourself a humanist. Call yourself a humanist, you got a 90% chance that that guy is going to say, at least you're not an atheist, and you haven't de-demonized squat, and the next guy who goes up and calls himself an atheist is going to get the anger that you could have taken very well, and you could have dealt with it, and you could have walked away, and you could have de-demonized it. That's activism. That's activism, that's humanism. That's being a good person. And that is one of the many reasons that every atheist needs to call themselves an atheist. Not just because it de-demonizes it, but because it makes the country a better place for the other atheists that live here. So many people in this country can't come out of the closet as atheists. They can't, because there's so many pressures around them. But those of us who can are therefore more obliged to come out. It is our jobs, those of us who can, to come out and de-demonize the word for those who can't, so that they can come out later. This is activism, this is humanism. Point 4. Atheists honoring religion legitimizes it in the eyes of the theist, but religion deserves no honor, and the theists deserve honesty without hostility. Once again, back to the theists deserving something. Realizing that they are victims. Realizing that they are good people, but they're wrong. And they're not wrong because they're stupid. They're wrong because they're hurt. They're injured. They are victims of a lie. The biggest lie in world history. Now, legitimization. I have a friend, his name is Robert, and he's a Muslim. And we were at a party one day, this is going back a little while now, and he said to me, the beer was flowing and the music was playing, and he comes over to me and he says, Dave, I want you to know I really respect your religious position. I really respect your atheism. And I said, thank you. He says, yeah, you defend yourself with good points, you have a lot of information, and you know what, I just wanted to let you know that I really respect that. And I said, thank you again. And then he said, now that I've respected your position, you should respect Islam too. And I said, no. I said, you respect my position because my position is respectable. Yours is not. And he got angry and walked away. Did I do the right thing?
Sure, yes.
Well, I could have had an easier time, right? I could have done a much nicer thing. I could have said, yeah, I respect your religion, you respect my religion, we're good friends, have a big bro hug, let's have a toast, everybody's happy. He walks away happy. And in that situation, he also walks away with the president of American Atheists saying he legitimizes Islam in his mind. The poison, the crap in his mind, the Hitchensian poison in his mind would have been reinforced by me. Folks, that's nothing I would do to a friend. I wouldn't do that to a friend. I wouldn't reinforce a poison, a lie, a scam, a con. I wouldn't tell him I respect Islam any more than I would tell him I respect astrology. I don't. He left that conversation pissed off, but knowing that there is nothing respectable in his religion as far as I'm concerned. That's fine. He got pissed. He'll get over it. But I'm not going to help him, help religion, help Islam, and hurt my friend at the same time by failing to tell the truth. All right. Firebrand, atheism, and mass. And now you get to see my favorite picture. I hope you can see this. So, what we've got here, I hope you guys over there can see this, is this little ledge here. See this ledge? This is the leading edge of a huge auditorium. And the auditorium goes way back to those windows. That auditorium holds 10,000 people. And this picture was taken at CPAC, the Conservative Political Action Conference, where all the Jesus people go to be Jesus-y all over each other in the name of Jesus, the founder of our Constitution. Well, that's what you would expect to see. That's what you would expect to hear. So this crowd of people right here is the leading edge of that auditorium letting out after hearing a speech from Sarah Palin. They all let out in this hall. They all come down this hallway, and I am standing in the middle of the hallway wearing an atheist shirt and atheist buttons, holding atheist pamphlets. My heart was racing, and I was ready for all of the crap that we're all thinking about right now. I was ready for it. The pamphlet said very specific things. It said conservatism isn't just for Christians, but atheist fiscal conservatives by the millions are being pushed away by the theocrats who are trying to equate conservative politics with Christianity. Now, if you're really, really, really old, like you, Ronnie, you might remember that conservatism didn't used to be all Christian. It used to be okay to vote Republican as an atheist. Back in the Barry Goldwater days, it was fine. Ronnie's only a couple years older than me, so I'm giving him a little bit of a hard time. It used to be fine, but now it's different. Now Christianity has taken over conservatism and made its social agenda, which is 100% theocratic and 0% conservative. It's all about pushing their religion on the rest of the country, and that's what it's about. And I was there to say, hey, you guys should stop this. It's hurting you. There are conservative atheists out there, and they want to vote for you, but they can't vote for you because your social agenda would make them second-class citizens. And the crowd enveloped me, and they started walking by. And I'm sitting there saying, why are atheists at CPAC? What do atheists want from the conservative movement? Why should the conservatives listen to the atheists? And then the most amazing thing happened. People started to turn around and come back to me and take my flyers because they were atheists. Atheists, lots of them, at CPAC, turned around and took our flyers. Atheists, lots of them, at CPAC, really pissed off at exactly what we were talking about. Atheists at CPAC, open, out, loud and proud, mostly young, all there, by dozens and dozens and dozens. They turned around, they took our pamphlets, and we told them to write on their pamphlet that we deserved a booth at CPAC, to write on their feedback form that atheists deserved a booth at CPAC. But then there were the Christians. Guess what? They also thought we deserved a table. The Christians at CPAC, by a large majority, wanted atheists to have a booth at CPAC. And they did. And the next year, last year, we went to CPAC with a booth as atheists. Now, this is the same organization that won't let the log cabin Republicans have a booth. They won't let the log cabin Republicans have a booth, but American Atheists was there. And not only were we there with a booth, we spoke from the stage as atheist conservatives. We had an atheist conservative. One of my board members is a real live atheist conservative. And she got up on stage and she talked to the conservatives as an atheist for the first time in CPAC history, ever. And that second year, last year when we went with 2 gallon bags full of buttons which said conservative atheist. And we gave all of them away. All of them. Hundreds. Now here's some results. I love results. First of all, the news was all over it. Just like the billboards, we went outside the Overton window with this, and the news went crazy. I'll see if I can't read on that little screen. I'll read up here. Young conservative and atheist attached to the GOP from the Christian Science Monitor. Should an atheist ever be a Republican? By Chicago Now. Not all conservative Republicans are Christian. From the World Religion News. The news services were all over the fact that the atheist conservatives were descending on CPAC. And what was the result? My favorite result, Tony Perkins. Tony Perkins, the president of the American Family Association, said from the stage, there are those that may choose to be non-religious, and that's fine, and the conservative movement is broad enough for that. Now let me be clear. I'm not all giddy that Tony Perkins likes us. I am, however, absolutely thrilled that he felt that he needed to say that. He choked on those words. He didn't want to say those words. But CPAC was filled with young, loud people wearing conservative atheist buttons. We had a presence where we never had a presence before. We changed CPAC in 2 days across 2 years. We changed it. And this year, we're going to be going back, I hope. Now, that's one set of Firebrand atheism. So, you see the theme here. We're going outside the window, going where we aren't expected, doing what isn't expected to move normalcy. We're moving normalcy. The big picture here is atheist normalcy. Atheism is in conservatism. I didn't even know that. I hoped I'd find a few. I had no idea I would find hundreds of atheists at CPAC. But I did. Because the conservative movement, as we found out, is not actually represented by conservative leadership. They're not. The conservative leadership is all about Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. And the conservative movement is waiting for them to die so that they can come in and take their party back. This is a theme I heard over and over. Ladies and gentlemen, if we're able to put a wedge between Christianity and conservatism, we win. We win. We can close up shop. That's where all of the religious rights power comes from, the Republican Party. If we separate church and state and conservatism, we win. And when we went in first, it was pie in the sky. But now we know that it is feasible. It is feasible that this would be one of the many ways we could win the separation of church and state war. We could get atheist normalcy soon. Sooner than we expected. Sooner than we anticipated. Because the mask of conservatism is all about Jesus. But the guts of conservatism includes a whole bunch of really pissed off atheists. Let's go for more results. I love results. Have I mentioned how much I love quantifiable, independent data? Now, I'm going to show you this chart and I'm going to move on. In Fighting God, I have a lot more charts. And I have a lot more data that backs what I'm about to make up. This is the front chart, and I have all the charts in Fighting God that will help you to determine that I'm not making this stuff up. So what we have here is two lines. We've got a blue line and a red line. Now the blue line is the number of times the word atheist is searched in Google in a given month. This is all traceable. You can all do this research yourself. The number of times the word atheist is searched in a given month. And it goes up and down, up and down. Why does it go up and down? Because of news stories. Something happens about atheists and people look it up. People Google it. And it goes up and down, up and down. And when there are no news stories, it goes down to this red line, which I represent as the floor. And I maintain that the floor, the amount of time that people look up the word atheist when they are not being prodded to do so, is a barometer for atheist normalcy. And you see it goes up and down, up and down, up and down until right here. Late 2006, the God delusion led into a Christian nation, and God is not great, all come out. They all go on book tour. Everybody starts reading about it. Everybody starts talking about it. And lo and behold, there's a spike at Christmas, but the floor is elevated. The amount of times that people look up the word atheist when not being prodded to rises. And it never goes back down again. Atheist normalcy was increased here a little bit. Atheist normalcy went up. Now, as we look a little bit farther along, a pattern emerges. Now you see a spike every Christmas. That is what I call the O'Reilly factor. The war on Christmas gets people arguing and talking about atheism, and after every Christmas spike, there's always a descent. And right here, this huge spike, right there, that is when, if you just look it up, again, all this stuff is traceable. All this stuff is researchable by you. You look it up there, you do Christmas of 2008, atheist, you're going to see one big news item happen, and that is those Richard Dawkins bus ads in England, stop worrying and enjoy your life. It was in England, but the news items here were huge. Everybody was talking about it, and look what happened. It didn't go down again. That floor raised again. It seems like the huge spike and the discussion around that spike, now just stop worrying and enjoy your life, was so strong that it raised atheist normalcy here in America. Now that last little tail there at the end, this part right over here, this is September of 2010. If you Google atheist September of 2010, you will find out that there were two news items that happened then. The first one was the Pew Research came out and said, atheists know more about religion than religious people do. We all knew that. The second and far more relevant part, as Don already told you, is that I was elected president of American Atheists. And that's when, I clap for that, and that's when the Billboards started, that's when the Firebrand atheism started to come out of American Atheists, and this is what happened. Now what you're seeing here is a bunch of spikes. Every single one of those spikes correlates to American Atheists, Billboard, or other activity. Every single one correlates to one of our activities, and the floor raises twice as far in half the time. Twice as far in half the time. These are our billboards. This is what I maintain is quantifiable, independent proof that American Atheists and our Firebrand activities are individually impacting this country and raising atheism awareness nationwide. It makes sense. We're moving the Overton window. People are hearing about it. People are looking it up. People are continuing to talk about it. So far, so good. That makes sense. Let's look at more. Here's a nice little chart. This is the number of times an atheist calls himself atheist versus the number of times an atheist calls himself an agnostic. And you can see right here in 2010, there's an increase in the slope. I wonder how that correlates with searches. Oh look, it correlates really well. What we see from this is the use of atheist correlates with hardline atheist activism and hardline atheist activity, and the use of agnostic also correlates with Firebrand atheist activity. And this is interesting because in the book I talk about how atheism has that spike, but I did the exact same analysis for agnostic over the same time frame, and it didn't show a spike. Why? Well, that makes sense, because we're not advertising agnosticism. It shouldn't show a spike. But the interesting thing is that people are calling themselves agnostic at the same level of increase, which suggests that the hardline atheism is causing people to look up atheism and call themselves agnostic as a stepping stone term. That's how it works. Now, so often I hear the negative, right? You're hurting this country. I get this so often. I had a friend, and she saw your billboard, and she went back to Christianity. I am so sick, it's never going to end, but so sick of atheists looking for reasons to hate on good, independent, quantitative data. But I had to do it, right? Because I'm doing a skeptical book. We're a skeptical audience. I'm writing a book about skepticism. I have to try and prove myself wrong. So I looked for data, any data, to suggest that Firebrand atheism correlates to anything bad. Nope. Here's what I found. How many people would vote for an atheist? Well, now, admittedly, this is 3 data points. Okay, this is a small n, 3 data points. But look at the slope of this line, increases right here. More people are willing to vote for atheists, and that goes up in the same timeline as people searching for the word atheists. In other words, all the data that I have found, all the data, points to something which I think is really, really defensible. Firebrand atheism gets more people talking about atheism, gets more people looking up atheism, gets more people calling themselves atheists, which de-demonizes the word, that guy in the face calling themselves atheists, which makes more people like atheists. It works. It passes the smell test, and in fact, it was the plan. And it seems to have worked perfectly. In fact, it seems to have worked better than expected. In summary, Firebrand atheism is more effective than the nice guy approach at causing movement on a nationwide level. It is also more effective in personal situations because it chips away at the privilege and the mythology. Think about my mother, think about my Muslim friend Robert. All religions are lies. All of them. All gods are false. All miracles are fake. Those who believe such things are victims of lies. Not stupid, not morons, not brain damaged. They are victims of lies. And it is a good and ethical thing to help free these people from that which is clearly wrong. Now, let me make a clarification here. And I want to underscore an important point. I am not suggesting that we go out proselytizing and going door to door. But if I did, if I got up at 8 o'clock on a Sunday morning, and I walked across the street to my theistic friends, and I knocked on the door, and I got invited in, and I systematically converted the entire family to atheism, you cannot deny that good has been done. You cannot deny that good has been done. So often, we atheists repel ourselves against extolling atheism because that's what religion does. We don't want to do that because religion does that. Once again, who does that help? Doesn't help us, doesn't help the country, doesn't help the believers. When atheists say, I don't want to do what religion does and extol atheism, we help religion. We only help religion. We facilitate the life of the lie. We have to own the fact that extolling atheism, being loud and out and proud, and helping people away from religion is good, does good things, has good components. And by the way, religion is not the only one that does this. Those people knocking on your doors on Sunday morning, they could be Jehovah's Witnesses, but they could also be Greenpeace. They could also be politicians. A whole lot of people push their agenda. Only atheists are afraid to do it because it looks like religion. And in doing so, we help religion. We need to own this undeniable fact. Point 3. Firebrand atheism is more effective at challenging religion than the nice guy approach. And I can show that with quantitative independent data. So it is better for the listeners, and it is indeed the nicer thing to do, even if the listener says it's offensive. Why? Because the listener says it's offensive, because the listener is a victim of the scam that has convinced them to be offended when anybody criticizes their religion. The whole "I'm offended by this" is a symptom of the brainwashing that we fight. That doesn't mean we should shut up. It means we should keep talking. Nothing beats facts. And everybody here should love facts, because all of them are on our side. I read a report somewhere not too long ago that said there were 2.5 billion gigabytes of data on this planet. 2.5 billion gigabytes. All those bytes have one thing in common. They do not support the existence of a man in the sky. 100% of the data is on our side. All of it. And we need to own it, and we need to be proud of it. This is not Christianity versus Judaism. This is right versus wrong. This is correct versus incorrect. We own the truth. This is not a fair fight. We win if we take the challenge, if we take the fight. All the data belongs to us. Ladies and gentlemen, my book is in the back, and so far it's getting pretty good reviews. I took this screenshot this morning from Amazon. So far, of the reviews that I've gotten, 75% on Amazon have rated it 5 stars. Hemant Mehta rated all of the books of 2015 and rated Fighting God #1 of 2015. That's above Ayaan Hirsi Ali's book. I'm very proud of that. I'm very happy about it. Thank you. It includes a lot more data showing how well Firebrand atheism works. It elucidates why Firebrand efforts are both ethical and justifiable. Despite all the complaints, despite all the whining, what we're doing is justifiable and ethical, and it is indeed the nice thing to do, the nice way to be. That's why atheism, calling yourself an atheist, once again, is humanistic. Fighting God shows how the major proofs of the evidence of God can be quickly and summarily proved invalid. Now, this is not a book about converting theists to atheism, but it does show that the teleological argument, the cosmological argument, the argument from design, the argument from morality are just dressed up versions of God of the gaps. I don't know, therefore God did it. And I take those arguments apart and show you they are all the same argument. They are all an old Neanderthal era argument dressed up to look differently. And it examines whether live and let live is an ethical choice. And we have to examine that. Is it ethical to let people, and I'm not making an ethical decision here, I'm just posing the question. Is it ethical to let somebody live in a scam? Is live and let live actually the nice thing to do? I really don't think it is. I really don't think it is, and we have to discuss that. I'm not making a global assumption here, but I am challenging it. I don't think it's ethical to live and let live when somebody else is being hurt, somebody else is being scammed. I don't think that's the right thing. Richard Dawkins said about my book, David Silverman is the bad boy of atheism, and we need people like him. How refreshing it is to read a book that is not afraid to speak the truth, sans apology. Thank you, Richard. I really appreciate that. The book is going to be on sale in the back, and right next to that book, Nancy is going to hold up, Don is going to hold up, yes, ladies and gentlemen, membership brochures. I am president of American Atheists, which was founded in 1963 by Madeline Murray O'Hare. And we are America's oldest 501c3 nonprofit organization by and for atheists. We are leading the movement. And when I say we are leading the movement, I can quantify that. We are leading the movement and changing this country with independent, quantifiable results. Oh, and by the way, we are efficient. we are debt-free, and we are transparent with voluntary, yearly independent audits, which are available online. Our current activities include, again, establishing the atheist voting bloc with the Atheist Voter Program, creating and leading a Patient's Right to Know Act, which will require hospitals to tell patients that they are refusing to offer treatments for religious grounds. Right now, you can go to a hospital and need tubal ligation, and if it's a Catholic hospital, they won't tell you you need tubal ligation because it's against their rules. You could die because of their religious rights. The Patient's Right to Know Act is essential, and we are getting lots and lots of support from a lot of wonderful organizations that are happy to jump on this. And we are attacking religious exemptions and special rights for churches in the IRS tax code, which needs to be modernized and fixed to the Ladies and gentlemen, we need your support. We need your membership. Yes, I am asking for money. And so many times people say, oh, you look like a religion when you ask for money. Folks, everything we do costs money. We need it. And if it looks like, the fact that it looks like religion is irrelevant. We need it. It's important. And some of you are not joiners. Some of you are not joiners. The donations are tax deductible, but some of you are not joiners. You say, well, I'm not a joiner. Who does that help? It helps religion, folks. If you say, I agree with you, and I'm not even going to toss you the $35 for membership, you are helping religion. You know it. It's time to pony up. It's time to step forward, and it's time to join American Atheists and join me in my fight against God. Thank you so much. Do we have time for questions, Don? Okay, let's just take a few questions because I know people want to buy books and get an autograph signing. So let's just say 3 questions and then we'll go on.
I do want to say one thing.
Wait, hold on.
I want to say one thing. The first 25 books sold tonight goes to benefit the Secular Student Alliance of the ASU. It's all their money. So get out there and do that. They are the ones that provided the room. They're the ones who are hosting Dave tonight. So thank them. The first 25 books.
Thank you so much. Yes, sir.
What should we expect at Reason Rally in June?
What should we expect at Reason Rally in June? Yeah, Reason Rally. So the Reason Rally was the largest atheist event in world history. I was the creator and captain of that ship, and we had 30,000 atheists in Washington, D.C. in the rain. Who was there? Anybody was there? Yeah, a bunch of people were there. Anybody there and not have a great time? Right. So, folks, Reason Rally 2016 will be on June 4th. And I can't tell you who's going to be there, but I can tell you it's going to be bigger. I can tell you we have a larger budget. I can tell you we have more people lined up. I can tell you it's going to be longer. I can tell you it's going to last a few days. And I can tell you that you need to make your reservations. I can also tell you that American Atheists has canceled its national convention for 2016. We do not want you to come to a national convention in 2016. Everybody goes to the Reason Rally. It is going to be an epic event. Please make your plans now and come. It's going to be awesome. The website for that is reasonrally.org. Thank you. Question 2. In the back.
Yeah, I was
sitting down.
interested in, so about the religious exemption thing that you guys were talking about, and I read the lawsuit a while back, and I was interested, why didn't you guys challenge on First Amendment grounds, as far as, it says that it actually, in 501c3, it says that actually, to the benefit or advancement of religion is a reason that some organization can be 501c3.
Yeah.
And that just seems to violate the Constitution.
Certainly does.
Why didn't you guys challenge it on those grounds and instead choose to go the route of
Equal protection.
Right.
Because the current makeup of the Supreme Court does not favor First Amendment activities. All the First Amendment, I mean, we've got an actual 5-4 minority now as far as promoting the separation of church and state and First Amendment. So that's the main reason we didn't go for it, because we didn't want to lose. When we filed this lawsuit, this is a very complicated lawsuit. and we want to win. And there's a whole bunch of things that we have to go through so that we can get standing and get up to the Supreme Court and win at the Supreme Court. And I'm just not confident at all, given the current markup, that we would win anything at the Supreme Court on separation of church and state grounds. Sorry.
What are your thoughts on the interesting trend that when in the news they're using the term radicalized Muslim, but you never hear radicalized Christian?
No, because Christians never do anything bad. It's amazing. But when they do something bad, they're loners.
Right.
They're disturbed people. It's something that we have to get past, and it's plain to see Christian privilege right there. We can't even get people to talk about Christian terrorism in this country, a real bad problem, and we can't get anybody to talk about it. That's where the Atheist Voter Campaign comes in, but it's also where Firebrand Atheism comes in. We have to have that conversation. That Christian terrorism is real, Christian terrorism exists, and Christian terrorism needs to stop. And we have to make that case, because unfortunately, the press won't do it for us. Just like before when I said, if we don't criticize religion, nobody will. Well, if we don't exact that, nobody will. If we don't call Christianity out on its terrorists, we know we will. Christianity has to know and hear from us that Christianity has a terrorism problem and needs to be addressed. That's our responsibility. All right, folks, so I'm going to stop talking because I'm yelling and I'm going hoarse. Where am I signing books, Nancy? I'm signing books back there, so please come buy books, join American Atheists, and donate to American Atheists, and I'll see you back there. Thank you all very much for coming. I really appreciate it.